Welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Sisterhood podcast. How are you all feeling after last week's full moon in Pisces? That was such a deeply feminine, emotional, exhausting moon. Am I right? I know so many women that I talk to every day in the Sacred She Pack on Facebook, which, by the way, if you're not in the Sacred She Pack group on Facebook, I highly recommend you joining. We have all sorts of amazing things going on in there, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful community of sisterhood, of women like yourself walking the path. So many women that I've talked to, including myself, were so exhausted around the full moon, and I really hope that you really honored that call to rest if you were feeling that call, because man, I honestly had to take a few days completely away from social media, away from all of it, to just intentionally rest, to lay in corpse pose on my yoga mat underneath a tree and soak in the sun and just soak in the love from Mother Earth, because wow, I was going through a lot of physical ascension symptoms, really, really sensitive spine. A lot of emotions were coming up for me, and I really, really just had to take care of myself. And I'm sure you can probably resonate with that as well. It was just a very intense moon. And what I wanted to talk about today is a really fun topic. It is the Autumn Equinox. And so we're approaching Autumn Equinox September 21st or 22nd, depending on what time zone you are. And of course, with Autumn Equinox in the Northern Hemisphere, we are moving into Spring Equinox in the Southern Hemisphere. So what this Autumn and Spring Equinox is all about, it's all about balance. Balance between the light and the dark, between the shadow self and our soul self. It is the balance between death and rebirth. And why this is symbolized in the autumn equinox, or the spring equinox if you're in the southern hemisphere, is that the amount of hours in daylight and night are equal. And it's the same in the southern hemisphere, except southern hemisphere is preparing for spring to arrive, new birth, new growth, abundance. Whereas for us in the northern hemisphere, we're preparing for the descent into hibernation for the winter. We are celebrating the second harvest, celebrating all of the abundance while preparing for the ground to freeze, while preparing for everything to die and to go into hibernation in order to really find stillness and prepare for the next season of growth next year, right? So I think we all can agree how much we love fall, we love autumn. Right now I'm drinking a chai latte, and we got the pumpkin spice latte and everything, the colors and the leaves are beginning to turn to those fire colors, and there's this crispness in the air, and the warmth of the days are behind us, and we're preparing for the cold days. But it's such a beautiful time. And as the leaves are falling away, it's really reflected in our lives why it's important for us to be willing to surrender and allow that which is not in alignment anymore to fall away, to make room for that stillness, to make room for those downloads to come in, and to make room for new growth. Right? So autumn is just such a very, very beautiful time, and the equinox especially is a very powerful time because we are celebrating the abundance of everything that this year brought, everything that we've accomplished, all while recognizing what it is that we desire to release and what we desire to let fall away in order to help us find that balance within ourselves. And it's just a very beautiful time of celebration and just preparing for those longer nights and those colder nights, and honoring the honoring the seasons and the rhythms and the cycle of the year, right? The wheel of the year is now turning as we approach Mabon, which is like the pagan or witch celebration of the autumn equinox. Basically any act of celebrating Earth. And so right now, as we approach Mabon, which is on September 21st or 22nd, it's a time to really give thanks. To give thanks to Mother Goddess and to give thanks to Earth for all of her abundance, all of her fruitfulness. And to really share that abundance with others. And really just being grateful for our blessings, all while preparing for a time of stillness. You know, some of my deepest death and rebirth cycles have happened in those long, dark nights of winter. And I know for myself, you know, after I moved to Salzburg, Austria over a year ago, I really got connected to these cycles and the rhythms of Earth. I feel very connected to this land, and the witch in me fully came alive. I was not in tune with the witch in me when I lived in the prairies of Alberta. I was very spiritual, but I hadn't connected to the witch yet. And this land, as soon as it begins to shift over into September and approach the autumn equinox, Mabon, it just feels so witchy here. And it's just such a very beautiful time. So we can really celebrate fall equinox and Mabon by, you know, having a bonfire, by, you know, doing our canning, by gathering our herbs and clipping our herbs and freezing them, by picking apples, by having a feast with root vegetables, like, you know, having your breads and your grains and your wine and your squashes. And all while it's very important that we share our abundance, donating food to the food bank or inviting a friend over that you know is maybe struggling financially right now to put a good meal on her table, by inviting her and her family over to join you in this feast. And to really just, you know, be out in nature right now and paying attention to the fire colors that are being pulled out of the leaves and feeling the leaves crunching underneath your feet and just sitting in nature and really indulging in it and being grateful for the warm temperatures that we still do have, you know, hanging out at like the 15 degrees Celsius, and, you know, the sun, when it touches your face, it feels so warm, even though come evening time it's chilly and we're putting our sweaters on, and, you know, we're having our chai tea lattes or pumpkin spice lattes in the morning because it's chilly, and we're wrapping up with a blanket and snuggling down on the couch with a tea and reading a book. You know, like in the summertime, we're out with friends and we're out in our gardens in the evening, whereas now that the nights are going to start getting longer as soon as we've passed the equinox this next few days, you know, we tend to just want to be inside in the evening because it's dark out. And so it's a time to really recharge and really reconnect with ourselves, and really just, it's just a very, very transformative time when we do take that time to really go inwards and cultivate that space. And we just kind of naturally do when the nights are longer, right? So other ways that you can celebrate Mabon on Sunday or Monday, depending where you're at, is to go for a walk in nature and to decorate your altar with fall colors. You know, your oranges and your reds and your browns and beiges and your yellows, and to, you know, put gourds out and to maybe put a pumpkin out on your altar, and to light a candle for your ancestors, and maybe leave a glass of wine for your ancestors to connect with them. As we move into, you know, Mabon and then Samhain at the end of October, the veil between the 3D world and the spiritual world is thin. which makes it much easier for us to access our ancestors, to access our angels, our guides, our team. It's easier to access the paranormal. So right now is a really good time to start to make an effort to cultivate that relationship with your ancestors. You know, the women and men who came before you, who fought hard to be able to get us to a point in our collective journey that we are able to do the work that we do in the world without getting killed for it, right? Like the work that I do in the world, if I was doing this a few hundred years ago, I wouldn't be here to talk about it. I would have gotten killed for it, right? And so it's important that we honor those that came before us, all the women that came before us who would have loved to be able to write about moon cycles and working with herbs and midwifery without the fear of being killed or something bad happening to their families, right? So if you are feeling called to honor your ancestors, there's a lot of power and magic when you do really begin to cultivate that, because there's so many that are standing beside you and standing behind you that are supporting you and loving you and encouraging you to rise up and speak your voice and speak your truth and do your work and shine your magic out into the world, you know? So with the veil being thin, this is a great time to, you know, smudge your house, smudge your space, any sort of spells that you cast or intentions that you set are really amplified right now because the veil is thin. And it's a great time to, you know, do a prosperity spell, to like ask for more prosperity to come in and to really be grateful for the prosperity that you do have. You know, this is all about celebrating the abundance in our lives, the abundance of Mother Earth. Right? So if you maybe take like $100 bill and put it on your altar and just blessing it every single day and blessing your bank account, and then just asking for your finances to expand and ask for your channel of wealth to open and expand. You know, everything that you do right now, if any intention that you set is amplified because the veil is thin. So I'm going to leave it at that with you. I just wanted to do a quick episode to just kind of talk about, you know, the falling away of the leaves and how this is reflected in our life of what we're letting go in order to make space for deeper exploration within ourselves and to make space for that new growth and to just really honor the season that we're in and the excitement of the day and the night being in exact harmony and exact balance, and how we can take this into our own lives and look at where we can find more balance within ourselves. So I'm wishing you all the most beautiful Mabon. I hope that you take some time to be out in nature and to celebrate, and even if it's just, you know, baking an apple pie and having a glass of wine and just sitting outside and smelling all of the wonderful smells and spending some time, you know, cleaning out your garden or whatever you feel called to doing. I hope it's magical and special, and I'm sending you so much love and so many blessings. And if you enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you could please leave me a review and maybe share it with a sister, just to help get this show out to women like yourself that are walking the path. And I also wanted to let you all know that I am doing an offering on Radical Radiance, which is 4 private coaching sessions with me to help you really clear out any sort of energetic charges that are keeping you from shining your brilliance, shining your magic, shining your beautiful light in the world. So if you're curious about that, if you feel a little bit of a stir in your bones, just send me a message. You can send me an email at coachmaryens@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook at Mary Wright, WRIGHT. I've now changed my name on Facebook to my married name, but it's pretty easy to find me, and we can chat about how Radical Radiance can support you in your journey right now as we prepare to dive into the slumber of winter. Have a beautiful day.